exchange dollars in things that you would not think were like kind to what they exited from. So it was very impressive. I got to say, you are the first one I've seen pull this off. And I'm pretty hesitant to believe in a lot of these kinds of things. So it's a major feat for me to say, wow, this actually really worked, and it was really cool.
1031 is a way to shelter your income when you sell the thing. The DST is a way to avoid the 1031 and not have to suffer the time penalty.
Our career and during different tax periods, we've seen, these tax avoidance, tax minimization, offshore, all these different strategies undertaken to minimize or avoid taxes. And then I can tell you that, some of them are just not worth the trouble. And so I was skeptical. Admittedly, I was skeptical. I thought, oh yeah, here we go, another one of these, right? And then they say, no, it really is different, right? So look more closely. We looked more closely. We had, honestly, 2 years of conversations. 2 years. Now we were being due diligence at the same time that we were doing due diligence, but 2 years is a long time to be, sort of flirting with the idea of and getting to know the people and getting to really understand the transaction. Yeah, long story short, we got comfortable, although we are not tax attorneys, lawyers, or estate planning attorneys, that at least, from an investment perspective, that, it made sense to sell a highly appreciated asset, get liquid, hold that in this type of a deferred or installment sale type of instrument, and then just be in a position then to do the most important thing. I'm probably stealing your next question, which is time. They say, well, you can't make more time. You can. The Deferred Sales Trust, in a way, allows you to lengthen the investment time horizon for those assets after getting liquid, but before having to feel the tax impact. And from an investment manager's perspective, time horizon is the most important element in investing.
Everybody, hello. Welcome to another Mastermind masterclass with the Deferred Sales Trust against tax solutions. We believe net worth individuals, those who struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options and a clear plan and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as Deferred Sales Trust is an amazing way to exit highly asset, cryptocurrency, businesses, real primary homes, or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. And with this strategy, we unlock transformational exit plan. Part of wealth building, whether you're using it in your favor or you're just paying tax and legal strategies to defer that tax on highly appreciated extra 25-50% of your, and or if you have a challenge with estate tax, a way to eliminate with to in fact, we focus on the point. We get a lot of different people curious versus 2.0. Some have never heard of 2.0. So you said not. They kind of talk about that. So there's things we cover in every single one. And the first is just kind of the vision and telling you about the vision, why we're purpose, why we're here, remind people of people, all of us, the opportunity to help looking to exit. And the second thing is just kind of an actual or closing. So really for those out there. Sometimes only kind of and then we're going to answer them. And also the last thing will just be answering your questions. You bring your question.
Very good.
And I'm not just by my talking time. You have some amazing gentlemen with me, part of the strategic mind, also kind of part of the outer team. DJ, Jake, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, Brett. I want to say that today is a great day. It's a Friday. It's the last day before the end of the weekend, and a lot of exciting things going on. Sometimes those Fridays can sneak up on you and become the busiest day of the week because literally people are doing important things, big things, and they need to reach out. And so my schedule today is slammed, and I'm not complaining. other than, it's exciting that there's a lot of big things going on right now. Just real quick, I wanted to do a mic check. Pierce, can you hear me okay? Can you hear Brett okay? Let's see if we can.
I can hear you okay. Jay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear Jake okay. Brett, you sound like your internet connection's off or something.
Okay, interesting.
Because I know that you said a lot of really good things, Brett, but I'm not sure that the rest of us heard.
Okay, so I thought it was me.
Even right now, it's stalled out.
Right now, it's better. Your video is stalled out, but the voice is coming in clearer than it was during your really amazing introduction.
Okay, excellent. Well, I might switch to my laptop, so we'll keep going here. Jake, you want to give a little more of the vision?
Let's do it.
As a commercial real estate there, and also host with me on the Capital Gains Tax podcast. How you doing today, brother?
Was he talking to me?
He was introducing you, Pierce.
Hi guys. Yeah,
luxury
we gotta switch that up because it's coming in. I can't hear anything out of. It's just robot sounds. But yeah, things are good over here. Hi everybody, I'm Pierce. And yeah, what was the question?
Yeah, no.
I just start off with the vision.
No, well, let me touch on the vision real fast, and then he wanted you to be introduced with Luxury Kingdom Realty. That you're a realtor, and that you've been helping a lot of individuals who are selling their homes and other assets that are over $1 million, which ties right into our vision today. We are helping people who have highly appreciated assets, $1 million net proceeds or $1 million net gain, right? Who otherwise are going to have a big tax pain. We help them avoid or eliminate or defer this tax gain by using the Deferred Sales Trust. And we help a lot of individuals, whether it's warrants or stock options, or if they just have a business that they've owned for an extended period of time. Maybe it's been their business for the last 30, 40 years, or just the last year or so, and they're going to sell it. They're able to put this Deferred Sales Trust in the middle of the transaction and otherwise not recognize the sale for purposes of taxes, which is incredibly important. And because of that, we have a team of individuals that work with you in your transaction. We kind of need, some time to get in front of whatever you are selling and position things correctly so that you can have a very positive, very tax optimized outcome. Now, Pierce, tell us where you're at, because in your introduction, which we've kind of touched on, help us know where Kingdom Luxury Realty is and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a luxury and commercial real estate agent out here in Southern California, focusing on the luxury side in Newport Beach, California, which is where most of my focus is for the Orange County, per se, is where I focus on the residential side. And then I'll do the commercial side all around the Southern California area, if it makes sense. So I'm happy to report.
That's how you pay for all your kids, right?
No, the grace of God. I don't know how I do that. They're super cute and I love them, but they follow me around and they talk and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. That's
your future sales team coming along right there behind you.
Yeah, so they might as well just hear it. They have some input and stuff like that, so no big deal. But yeah, I'm happy to report. Put 2 deals in escrow this week, so that's pretty awesome. And we're excited to get some more. So working on.
I'm back here. How are we doing?
Brett,
much better.
Loud and clear. Yes, that's wonderful.
Right. Sorry about that. The technical difficulties. You never know what's going to happen certain days. It was working fine just a few minutes ago. So I caught everything you guys were saying. So we're going to get started right away. We're going to dive right into a couple live deals that have closed, and then we're going to open it up for questions and also some common questions that we had this week. Sometimes a repeat question. But before we go into that, we're going to focus like a laser on the DST 2.0. I will start with a deal story that closed. In this particular sale, the client's net worth was $25 million. So the first thing you always want to clarify is, what is the problem you're trying to solve for? Is the problem capital gains tax solely, or is it also estate tax? And estate tax, for those who don't know, it's about 40% of anything above and beyond your $24 million married exclusion if you're a U.S. citizen. $12 million if you're single is going to be subject to a 40% death tax of whatever's inside of your taxable estate. So let's try to make that super simple. Let's imagine you're worth $54 million and you're married. That first 24 is subject to no estate tax. So upon death, you get what's called a stepped up basis on that $54 million. Let's imagine it's a multifamily property, or it's some Bitcoin, or it's some really fancy house on the beach, or some home, or some business. That stepped up basis is what your kids would receive at the time of your death. And they would be able to walk away capital gains tax free. But that estate tax has nothing to do with capital gains tax. In fact, it's a tax on the entire estate. Jake says it well. It's the government's biggest mousetrap, where all of a sudden you look at that and you go, oh no, I need, or your kids need to pay 40% of the difference between 54 million and 24 million. So what's that difference? It's a $30 million difference. And what's 40% of that 30 million? That's $12 million. Okay. So that's substantial. So always want to clarify, like, what are we trying to solve for? People are either moving from pain or they're moving to purpose. And this is kind of the bigger picture too for building wealth and legacy. It's like, there's the pain of the estate tax, the pain of the capital gains tax. There's also like the purpose and the legacy for the wealth. Perhaps you would want to give to charity. Perhaps you want your kids to, be able to give to charities as those charities are doing the things that are part of your value system. Perhaps you're wanting to, just set this up for grandkids and grandkids for the future. Whatever it might be, clarifying that there's the pain part of that elimination of the 40% debt tax, but then there's the purpose for the capital is super important. Then the question becomes, what actually does that? Well, we're here to tell you that the Deferred Sales Trust 2.0, the Deferred Sales Trust Plus, is incredible, in that in one day, in one transaction, does take a fair market value in a sale of something before you die. You can't just transfer it over, like transfer it into a living trust, which has to do with probate, nothing to do with cap gains tax or estate tax. It's just kind of how where your assets are going. But with the DST 2.0, we're going to move it outside your taxable estate upon the closing, upon a sale. And then now when those assets transfer via a living trust, via a promissory note, the way that's set up with the DST 2.0, it's outside the taxable estate. So we've eliminated that $12 million estate tax, which is substantial. That being said, Jake, there's something that's changing in 2025 that everyone should be aware of, that actually further enhances this, or further enhances the pain, which further enhances is the solution. What is that, Jake?
Yeah, so at the end of 2025, we have the sunset. It's like the sun going down, right? Or the end of this 10-year period that was established by President Trump, called the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Essentially, there was a cutting or slashing of tax rates and taxes in general among a number of different categories of tax. And that ends. New legislation, it either reverts back to the way it was before, which obviously is more, right? Or new legislation can establish what that amount will be. And yet, well, I can't foresee any future, Brett, in the fact that it doesn't just go up. So essentially, taxes go up, and the exclusion, this unified tax credit, or what we talk about, the 24 million, gets cut in half, right? So that means that your benefit of what you can keep inside of your estate that is not subject to the 40% estate tax or death tax rule, just you lose half of that benefit after 2025.
Which moves it up to 16.8 million, right? Because it's basically another 40% of 12 million. So you take the other 12 you would have paid, now it's 16.8 million. And so understanding just like, it's like, what game are we playing? We're playing a tax flow game, right? And what's available to us? Well, there's the 1031 exchange. And Pierce, could you mute yourself too while you're maybe not talking there? You have an opportunity to solve that, and we want to help you do that and clarify that, right? By the way, you might want to go charitable route, which is cool, and you might want to do partial charitable remainder trust. You might want to do opportunity zones to eliminate some capital gains tax, right? But if the main thing is estate tax, and this is the focus of today's, Deferred Sales Trust 2.0, you do want to know what you're solving for, okay? Whereas the DST 1.0, it doesn't move it outside the taxable estate, and that's one of the key things. It keeps it inside the taxable estate. Now, that doesn't mean that your children can't continue on and receive the tax deferral benefit. In fact, they can. The way we do that is they have the promissory note inside of your living trust, which is the asset itself of the promissory note, and your child or children can step into your shoes and maintain the tax deferral. And they can also cash out if they want to and pay tax, or they can just, again, step into your shoes and continue the tax deferral. In fact, most of our clients prefer that. They prefer to keep the golden goose, which is the main amount or the original principal amount, intact, and they just live off the principal or live off the interest that the principal produces, typically around 5, 6, 7, 8%, depending on how and where the funds are invested. They'll pay ordinary income tax on that to the extent that they don't have depreciation from other assets to offset some of that cash flow. We call that tax flow. If you have some extra depreciation, it's always smart to have that as much as you can. And so these are the little nuances here that you want to be aware of. Now, Jake, there's another advantage of the DST 1.0 as it pertains to flexibility of payments. So would you talk about those two differences, the DST 2.0 and the 1.0, as it pertains to flexibility?
Absolutely. 1.0, usually, again, smaller dollar amounts, not subject to some of the rules and regulations or requirements of 2.0, in the sense that, hey, if I sell whatever I'm selling right now, this highly appreciated asset, I'm going to defer for the recognition of this transaction, right? I actually don't need to take distributions. I don't even need to take those interest payments to, when I say take it, it's like, at some point down the road, but I have a high degree of flexibility, meaning I can start taking some money out and I can stop, and I can take it again and I can stop, so you have a little bit more leeway of when you're taking money out of the trust in the 1.0 version. With the 2.0, you can delay the time that you might start taking out, but once you start, at a minimum, you have to be taking the interest payment that is derived by having funds inside of the trust. And so once it's started, you can't ever stop. You do have some time control over the time of when you start taking the interest, but once it's started, it's open forever. Whereas with the 1.0, you can start and stop, turn it on as needed. And again, what comes out first are the interest based on the promissory note that we exchange the asset into the trust to then go and sell on behalf of the trust. That interest rate is what I'm talking about. As far as the principal inside, Brett, on both of those, you are able to control what comes out in regards to the principal. And you can hold that in there and refinance after 10 years under either of those. But the biggest difference, I would say, is the power to turn on and off the interest payment from the trust.
Yeah. And so, 99.9% yes. Little nuance. When you do start the 2.0, it's going to be mixed between cap gains and interest payments. And that doesn't stop. And that's based upon your life expectancy. There's some IRS tables there. So Jake is correct in that you can delay it before it starts, but once it starts, it's not going to stop. Correct there too. And then when it does start, it's going to be a mix between principal and interest based upon your life expectancy. But here's the cool thing. It's outside your taxable estate. So Jake and I are working on a very large deal right now, and we're going with the ROI. There's multiple ways to do an ROI, return on investment, for this. And part of that is just the capital gains tax deferral and what you can earn off of that. Part of that is the estate tax elimination and savings. But also the other part of it is not only do you eliminate that estate tax on the sale of that asset, but also you move the funds outside the taxable estate, which means what? All of the growth between now and the time you pass is also outside the taxable estate. So let's do an example. $54 million sale. They're 50 years old. So they're going to live to 100 years old. Jake, over any 3 to 5 or 10 year period, with investing and you can perhaps double your money every 10 years. Let's just say that's the number. That 50 million could easily, double 5 times over. And the question is, will that be inside the taxable estate or outside? And what's so powerful with the DST, it's an exponential return because of the elimination of that 40% death tax, but also the elimination on all of the growth because it's outside the taxable estate. So it's a nice way to benefit. Now,
DST 1.0, very flexible. And by the way, sometimes we do partial 1.0 and partial 2.0 because some people say, well, I like the flexibility during my lifetime to be able to start and stop. Why would you want to start and stop? Well, it could be because your income is high this year and perhaps you want a lower tax burden this year. So you're going to, we're going to amend the promissory note to pause the payments. And perhaps 2 years from now, you've retired from that business or that earn out, and all of a sudden your income drops to zero. And perhaps that's when you want to turn on the faucet for the DST 1.0. So it's not a one size fits all. Actually, oftentimes we're doing two trusts, one 1.0, one 2.0, to satisfy both parts of the client's needs, which is part of the flexibility with the deferred sales trust. That being said, I'm going to bring in Pierce York now. Pierce, we're going to talk a little bit about high-end primary homes and some 1031 exchanges, and why you might use the DST, 1.0 or 2.0. But let's do a scenario, Pierce. Let's imagine there's a house in Newport Beach, and it's worth $30 million, and you're walking in for a listing appointment, and we're going to role play right now, right, Pierce? And I'm going to be the seller, and you're going to be the agent and the deferred sales trust expert to help me understand the differences. You ready?
Yep, let's go.
So Pierce, I got this $30 million asset. I mean, I've got this agent that he's been on the front of the magazine and on the early news for the last 20 years. He sold 15 of these homes in years. And he's like, I mean, he's not quite as good looking as you, but he's sharp, man. So talk to me, like, why am I going to hire you to sell this property?
Yeah, I'm sure you're talking about Tim Smith over there, and he is an absolute stud. I will absolutely agree with you on that one. And Timmy has a lot of experience in all of these different, home sales and whatnot. But one of the things that Timmy, doesn't necessarily have is, what are you going to do with your tax situation? I'm sure you have a CPA. I'm sure they're absolutely baller. However, I've talked to a lot of different CPAs, and there's only so many challenges. There's so many ways you can solve this challenge. You bought this property for $10 million and you're selling it for 30. So that's a $20 million gain. And in California, you're definitely at that 37% as a primary homeowner. It's going to be really difficult for you to, change that tax liability that you got. So what's your plan for that?
I think I might rent it out for 2 years and just do like that 1031 exchange thing.
Okay. Do you have any sort of property that you would want to go into?
Not right now, but I mean, I feel like I'm pretty well connected. I can find deals pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. Okay. So your goal would be to 1031 after renting it out for 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I don't want to pay that tax. That tax is crazy, but that's what's on 20 million. You said 37%. Man, that's what, $7-8 million?
$6 million. Yeah. Something stupid like that, right? Well, what if I told you there was a way that you could sell the asset right now, get all of the proceeds, and then diversify and invest in whatever assets you wanted?
I think that would be perfect. I think it'd be great. Does it defer my capital gains tax?
It defers your capital gains tax. And not only that, if you, depending upon what your goals are and your, situation, we can also talk about how we can move that asset outside of your taxable estate. And
taxable estate? I thought we were just talking cap gains tax. What are you talking about there?
Yeah. So this also, has the ability to move assets outside the taxable estate, freezing them in time. So your heirs, when you pass, don't necessarily have to pay that 40% death tax. And that's just some of the value that we can bring over Tim Smith.
You have to buy a bunch of life insurance and give it all away to charity?
You don't, although you could. So what's nice is you get flexibility, you get diversification, you get cash flow. Think about what it would be like to reposition the equity in this home, take that $20 million net of attorney fees instead of net of taxes, and reinvest the funds. You'd have a parabolic curve on an ROI. I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer when you sit down and do the math. And if you like, we can show you side by side what it would look like for you to actually sell your property with Timmy or sell your property with me, utilizing some of the strategies and some of the teammates that we have on our side over here that we could actually show you side by side the actual ROI difference on a calculator. not just I know a bunch of people and I can do marketing and earn you an 18% more on your purchase price or sales price or whatever they say now.
So Pierce, if you can help me defer millions of dollars of tax and eliminate 40% of my net worth on the sale of this $30 million property, to me, that's more valuable than a fancy front page of a magazine or a fancy, sell a bunch of properties. That's really my biggest thing I'm looking to solve for, because it's a legacy play now, Pierce. It's no longer just tax. I mean, that's a part of it, but I want the flexibility to be able to sell this place and invest in other opportunities, other businesses, other real estate, or just put it all into the stock market and just not ever have to worry about California real estate ever again. I mean, this stuff is I really don't want to do a 1031, but I felt like that was my only option. So does the deferred sales trust give me flexibility to invest in other assets as well?
The deferred sales trust gives you flexibility to invest in other assets. And what's unique, Brett, is that it doesn't just work for a primary home. So if you have a business, or if you have a stock, or if you have some highly appreciated racehorses, even like we're doing a deal out in Kentucky right now with our own Jake Miller, who I'd love to introduce you to. And that would be kind of the next step, would be if you're interested in something like this, I would set up a meeting with our all-star team, and you'd get to meet Brett Swarts and Jake Miller and and some of these amazing people that are just absolute studs. And
Perfect.
they can show you all of those things. So
let's do
why
it.
don't we go ahead and set that up? And
perfect. Good job, Pierce. I'm gonna flip that last part of it now too, and now just say this. This is where you make the ask, right? Mr. Smith, assuming we can agree on price and terms and we can deliver on what I'm telling you about, is there any reason why you wouldn't allow me to exclusively list your property and deliver on these promises?
Mr. Seller, if I can do what I just said I could do, is there any reason why you wouldn't let me list this property exclusively?
No, Pierce, if you can deliver all that sounds great, right? And so the reason we have to make sure you make that ask, because you're offering a lot, and he might just say, "Hey, thanks, Pierce. I'll list with Tim, and then I'll use the service," right? And so instead of dropping all of the deferred sales trust stuff, or even dropping all of the names, you just say, "Hey, I have an amazing world-class team that we deliver every single week for people together. In fact, I'm a part of a podcast. I'm a part of the biggest real estate, fastest growing real estate company in the history of the world. And we just do a ton of business, but we're not just focused on selling real estate. We're focused on solving problems on a very high level with estate tax and capital gains tax. So if I could show you how we could help you eliminate the estate tax, defer your capital gains tax, would you allow me to exclusively list your property? And assuming we can agree on the price and terms of the sale of your property, is there any other reason why you wouldn't allow me to exclusively list your property?" Right? No, I think that sounds great. Excellent. Let's set the next meeting, and let's meet with these guys next week. What time works for you? So that is kind of the talk track, and that's what I would recommend anyone who's a business professional listening to this, that you're really honing in on the pain and what you're trying to solve for, but you're not cutting yourself short by just offering it up and being a free marketing source, using it as a way to grow your business. And he wants that too. That person wants that. At the end of the day, he doesn't want a Tim Smith who's never done this deferred sales trust, who's never had the transaction coordination, who doesn't have the team behind him, who doesn't have the expertise, all the nuances. This is not just like a traditional transaction. It takes a team of professionals to execute this. This is part of why it's not as well known. This is part of why you don't see everybody doing it, because it does take a higher level of experienced professionals who have been a part of the 10,000 hours with the tax attorney who created it. And this is part of what we bring here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. This is part of why we're on this masterclass, so you can start to absorb some of what's in this brain, my brain here, some of what's in Jake's brain, and also Pierce's brain, because he's been a part of it now for 6 years. That being said, we want to open up now for questions from anyone who's out there who's listening to this right now. You can either type your name and question into the chat, or just unmute yourself. And Jake, myself, or Pierce will answer your questions and kind of go through the strategy here. So feel free to unmute. We have Jessica, we've got Marie, we've got Micah, we've got Toby. Everybody is welcome to ask questions. And by the way, if you're listening to this on YouTube, we want you to join us next week, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, where you can sign up for a free invite. Toby, how you doing? Welcome, man. What question do you have?
Yeah, I missed a little bit of the beginning, so apologize if I'm asking something that you already covered. But So say I've got my eye on this RV park that I've been wanting to buy, and I do this deferred sales tax or trust. Can I then invest that money and buy that RV park?
The answer is absolutely, Toby. And Toby, where are you calling from?
I'm in Colorado, Denver, Colorado.
Excellent. What are you considering selling?
Just as more theoretical.
Okay, so just in case, if you happen to sell something,
I can buy a specific deal is what I'm saying.
yeah, could you buy a specific deal that you buy and you run and you manage? The answer is absolutely. In fact, that's the main reason I'm here. Started at Marcus Millichap in 06 and found out that the 1031 exchange hammered people by the time 08 came around, 09. And we wanted a way to buy something at optimal timing and still maintain the ability to run that deal ourselves. And so the answer is really simple. Step one, you close your asset into the trust and you get a promissory note. Step two, there's an allocation presented and shown to you by DJ Miller, who's a financial advisor, is one of our go-to, if not our top professional to work with here. Number three, you might say, I got an RV park. I want to go into that. Great. What do you have, Toby? And you present it and we say, fantastic. It fits your risk tolerance. It fits your expertise. It fits whatever you want to do. It's your money. I have to approve it as a trustee. So I will review the deal. Here's the cool thing. I'm a commercial real estate expert. I've invested not in RV parks, but multifamily, senior housing, medical office, all of those things, industrial. And we underwrite the property. We look at it. And Toby, the trust can be a silent partner with you. In an LLC, which you're the managing member of, which you open up the bank accounts, which you hire the property management, which you might be part of the property management. You pay yourself a fair wage, and you buy that deal, and you get up to 80% of the upside of that deal. But the trust typically puts up all of the funds, and that's to me the best kept secret with the deferred sales trust, because now you've done a number of things. Not only have you sold your asset, you diversified your wealth. And now you've invested back in, hopefully at optimal timing, when it made sense for you. And you negotiated a deal that wasn't based upon a 45-day, ticking time bomb, right? Or 180-day, collapsing, pressure with the seller says, oh, Toby, I got you right where I want you. You say, no, actually, I'm going to buy when it makes sense. I'm going to buy it based upon the intrinsic value, the cash flow, and making a fair and equitable deal for myself. And I don't need to be pressured by time or a 1031 exchange. So Toby, any questions on anything I just said right there?
One question. So say I've been doing 1031s all along and I'm ready to get out of doing that. Do I sell my latest property? Do I have to sell that at current market value, or can I sell it, technically at a loss so I don't pay, so there's no taxable event?
Well, if you're selling at a loss, you don't need a deferred sales trust to begin with, right? Because that's what we're here to solve for, that paying part of the tax. And so, by the way, the qualifications are typically 1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. That is our minimum. So if the asset you're selling does not have a $1 million gain or $1 million net proceeds, then you don't qualify unless you had two at 500 each. $500,000 gain, $500,000 net proceeds, another one at 500. Then you can combine those two into one. So if you already have a loss, Toby, then you don't need us anyways. We'll give you a high five and you just sell it and don't pay your tax, right? That's it's unfortunate to make a gain, but you don't need us and pay the fees that we charge.
Okay, so I have to sell it at market value then.
You think you'd want to sell it at the highest price as possible, right? You could sell it for whatever you'd like. I don't know if you're getting to like fair dealings rules where you have it needs to be fair market value, yeah. But if you don't have enough of a gain, then you don't use we work on a conditional basis. Here's the other thing we say too. So unless and if your deal closes and unless you have hit those minimums, we're not charging you anything, right? And we won't take the deal unless it's big enough. Does that make sense, Toby? So this is all hypothetical, I think, unless you have an actual deal. But if you don't have a big enough gain, then we're going to say no to you. You don't qualify for the trust.
Got it.
And I just want to pipe in just real fast. I mean, there's a lot of strategies out there that are what I want to call handicap strategies. Essentially, the situation is difficult enough that so in your example, hey, I might sell at a loss just so I can avoid the taxes. And that might make sense from a tax standpoint if you're not able to do anything else. However, with the deferred sales trust, and so that's what I call a handicap strategy. There's a lot of strategies out there that are like, hey, let's put a Band-Aid on it. We're not finding a cure, We're just, trying to address the symptoms right now because we can't stop the damage. Whereas with the deferred sales trust, again, if the case is big enough, if it's eligible, you are able to defer everything. And then you can actually apply appropriate strategies in the future to help offset when you do want to take money out of the trust. What we want to make sure of now is if it is the right time to sell, you're not just selling for tax reasons. You're selling because the fair market value is the right price. And
Got it. Yeah. I don't want to take up any more time on this. I was asking for another reason that I'll talk with Brett offline about.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's a valid question though, because we get questions similar to that all the time. And, literally that's why Brett and I, when we first talk to individuals and people, we find out first what their intentions are. They want to sell. And why do they want to sell? Do they have something they want to spend the money on right away? And if that thing that they want to spend the money on right away is an eligible reinvestment, then the deferred sales trust is a perfect fit. But we also like to make sure that when it's not a good fit, that people don't just do it because they're trying to force something that doesn't really work.
Got it.
And I imagine there's more context, Toby. We'll talk offline. That sounds great, brother, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for asking the question. Any other questions, Toby, by the way, unrelated to that?
No. Can I go back and catch the beginning of this? Or
Yeah, we have. It's the cool thing is on our YouTube channel, Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and also Expert CRE Secrets. We just we live stream this, right? So it's all
Nice, okay.
replays for the last, I don't know, we've done this maybe 35, 40 times now. I'm not sure exactly. So yeah, you can go check it all out. You can get a free ebook by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can look for the new book too coming out. It's called Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. We got DJ Miller in the book. We've got the Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book, which is pretty cool. I got a couple of chapters too, so you can check that out. Excellent. Who else? Anyone else have any questions? Or Toby, if you have more questions too, that's cool.
no, appreciate it. Just want to learn more about what you guys are doing and see how we might be able to work together.
Sounds good. Awesome. All right.
Commenting that Pierce is organically producing his sales team. As we can see there on camera, he's got them starting at a young and early age.
That is fun.
Yes, they this one ran up the stairs, so I had to get her. And the other one is getting a little discipline right now. So
Our team, there it is. Well, cool. Who else? We have Jessica, we have Marie, we have Mike. I could even say hello. Mike is also part of the support Rockstar staff for the Jake Miller. Any comments, thoughts? Otherwise, Jake and I can just talk forever. But it's always good to get the audience's and the participants' feedback here.
While people are thinking up a question, Brett, I had one text me just literally 5 minutes ago. And of course, this is something that we deal with all the time. But Brett, answer this question for me, rapid fire. Can we, if we have highly appreciated stock, if a client just has a brokerage account with a lot of stock in it, and it's been there forever, can we use the deferred sales trust?
The answer is yes, but understand that it's on a specific stock that we want the $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, not like 50 stocks. So it's the transaction of it that becomes cumbersome. So for the cost. So yes, public or private stock works for the DST. However, the DST 2.0 only, public stock is only eligible using the DST 2.0, which is typically reserved for very large deals, a very high net worth, right? So it has to be $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain for the DST 2.0. Doesn't work for public stock, doesn't work for DST 1.0. 1.0 does work for private stock. You can also use 2.0 for private stock as well. So the answer is yes, but it all depends on the size and depends on the concentration. Hopefully that clarifies it, Jake.
Yes. Now let's just say they have a portfolio, Morgan Stanley, whatever, right? And they want to liquidate everything. And it's just been, they've been paying taxes on like the interest and the dividends and everything else, but they haven't recognized the growth in the portfolio. And let's say that there's 10 investments in there. I'm going to make it difficult for you, right? 10 stocks that have been there for 20 plus years and that they've grown substantially. And the guy's just ready to be out of the market altogether.
What's the total value of the 10 stocks?
1.5 million.
So we would take it to the tax attorneys and let them make the ultimate decision. But when I hear that, it's like when people call me with $25 5 homes that are collectively worth 1.5 million. We found that the transaction cost and the brain damage to do 25 single family homes for that small amount, it creates, it doesn't create a win-win for both sides. So
I like the way you put the brain damage, in the sense that it's the same amount of work for one transaction every time they have to do that again and again and again. If there's 10 or 20 or 40 or 50 stocks, it's a lot of extra work for what they get paid to do it.
Exactly. So the ROI, so the cost goes higher on your guys' side, or the tax attorney side than our side, to a certain point where it doesn't make any sense. And for you or for us, vice versa. So it's, yeah. So generally we would just say, no, sorry, to be honest, but we'll take it.
Hey, Brett,
if it's an actual case.
And Jake, I have a question for you. So I met with a CPA the other day discussing, you know, his, he's a CPA and financial advisor, kind of thinking about coming on and joining the team down here, has a bunch of high net worth clients and all that kind of stuff, but he had brought up some concerns about, does the law firm like have any sort of other guarantees with, within the trust, like with you as the trustee, basically asking the question, like, you know, how do we know you're not going to run off to Mexico, is basically the core of the thing. But he was asking specifically about, does the law firm have any sort of, I don't know, quote, skin in the game or something like that, that protects against some of the clients' money kind of thing?
No, the law firm doesn't. The financial advisor doesn't, and the trustee is separate. Part of the integrity of the trust, you can mute yourself too when you're done there, Pierce. Part of the integrity of the trust is there's 3 separate entities. There's the law firm, there's the financial advisor, there's the trustee, and we're separate for a reason. In fact, I think that creates transparency, that creates accountability, and that actually creates more protection because you have more eyes and ears. You have the note holder, you have the trustee, you have the financial advisor, and you have the law firm. And they're all kind of, it's like the balance of, you know, the 3 executive branches of the government, if you will, right? It's very similar. The more eyes and ears and the more people that are actually separate create more opportunity for protection, transparency, accountability. So no, they don't have any skin in the game. They don't hire me. They don't work for me. I don't work for them. We're separate. But yeah, I would ask the CPA, you know, does he ask that same question of qualified intermediaries? Does he ask that same question of even financial advisors? Because the actual funds, this is what, you know, the reality is, the actual funds typically go to like Jake Miller at Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, right? And that's the largest in the world. And then they have 24/7 access to view the funds online. So even if I make a request, it would be dual approval, and I want to throw my life away and run away with the money into Mexico. I mean, I guess anyone could try to do that, but so far I haven't done that, and I haven't thrown my life away. I'm not planning on doing that. So it's kind of like, prove to me that you're not a criminal. It's like, and prove to me that the Campbell Law Firm is gonna pay for all of that if you are a criminal. And even if Campbell Law could do that, well, why would they do that, right? This is not someone that works for them. Now they've done the background check and criminal background check on me and all that stuff, and it's all clean and clear. It's not like just anybody can become a trustee. That's part of also how they've protected the strategy and keep it from being abused or used out of context. So hopefully that's a good answer. Jake, anything else you want to add to that?
No,
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Micah.
Hold on. No, so I just think it's interesting that there are certain qualifications for you to even be a trustee, really. And then the other thing that I wanted to kind of bring up is there isn't an obligation up front. There is no fee up front. There's only fees if you choose to go ahead with it. So it's really neat because you can kind of choose and figure out if the pain is great enough, and then move forward if you really want to.
Perfectly well said. Exactly. It's conditional basis. So I would encourage that CPA to come to get to know us, right? The CPAs, I've found the ones that won't get on the phones or won't come get to know us are never, ever going to say yes. And they're pretty kind of closed-minded. But if they're like, hey, those are good questions, come to the table, talk with the law firm. And really within the first 5 minutes, when they talk with Campbell Law and they talk with us And then they can talk with our clients, talk with the banks, talk with other CPA firms that have done tens of thousands of tax returns for these trusts over all the years. And there's never been a single, negative, like either legal finding or any of what he's talking about or he's concerned about. It's just that fear part of the unknown. So I would just, instead of trying to overcome that with, anything of logic, I would just say, hey, emotionally, come on and connect with us. Come sit down with us and let's go through it. You can give the David Young story, which is super powerful, right? It's like, would David Young put his name on something when he thought the money could be taken away, even though the law firm's not the one backing the money? I've never even heard of a law firm backing a trustee or anything of that sort of financial advisor or anyone like that. Jake, have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Have you ever heard of a law firm backing and saying, oh, I'll sign off for some other person that potentially could be fraudulent?
They don't do that unless somehow they have like in-house trustees, which usually is not the case. Typically, there's a separation. As you mentioned, the importance of that earlier on, that is the common practice, that you have an executor, a trustee, somebody outside that is representing as a fiduciary the interests of what's inside of the trust. Now, there might be the law firm that like is paid extra to double check on the duties of a trustee, but not that they're providing or extending liability coverage or protection that way.
Yep, exactly. But good question.
I think what he was really concerned, because he's also a financial planner. And one of the things that he was actually looking into the DST before I met him. And then part of the strategy that I have coming down here now is to kind of go after professionals that have high net worth clients that could be looking for tax solutions. This guy's also, a CPA and a financial planner, right? So it behooves him to have the strategy so he can increase his assets under management for his clients and all that kind of stuff. And his biggest objection that he keeps getting is, oh, well, could you like just run away with the money? So people are super okay with him doing their taxes, but when it comes to them like managing the money, right, that's where he's coming up against the wall. So he's like, okay, like he's super open to coming on, talking to us, and he wants to be a part of the team. But he was just like, how do we get past that objection of, hey, could he just run away with the money? And obviously, you got to get to know us, right? The checks and balances that we kind of all talk about and so on and so forth. And so he was just asking if the law firm backed it at all. And I was like, I don't think so. But I wanted to clarify that. So that's kind of where we're at with that guy.
You just bring him on a call, Pierce. There's a couple other like things that we could put in place. They're more expensive, but there's a couple other things we put in place. Just bring him on a call.
Well, there's things you can put in place, Brett, but at the same time, the law firm doesn't need to, in the sense
they don't need to.
There's already insurances, there's already other protocols and controls put in place. Now, should they want to take it to the next level, there are other things, but that usually isn't warranted to incur those extra costs until you have $30 million, till you have, something more worth absorbing those extra fees.
And we're going to do a lightning round right now for the DST 1.0 versus 2.0. Jake, keep it to, and Pierce, keep it to 5 to 7 seconds response, okay? Because I want to deliver on our promises, make it really clear for you. You ready? So I'm going to go Jake, Pierce, Jake, Pierce, Jake, Pierce, okay? So Jake, DST 1.0 versus DST 2.0. Can I invest in the exact same type of investments, 1.0 versus 2.0? Yes or no?
Yep.
Pierce, DST 1.0 versus 2.0. Does the DST 1.0 remove outside my taxable estate, or does it stay inside my taxable estate?
It stays inside.
And 2.0?
Moves it outside.
Excellent. Jake, for DST 1.0 and 2.0, have these been done in California?
Every day.
Pierce, why would I use DST 1.0 versus 2.0?
You trying to do this in 7 seconds. You would use the 1.0 if you're under $10 million and you're married and you don't have an estate tax issue and you want flexibility. You would use the 2.0 if you're trying to move the assets outside the taxable estate or you're over that $10 million threshold so you don't have to pay the interest.
Excellent. Jake, what is it about this $10 million married or $5 million single? What happens on 1.0 if it's greater than that?
If it's greater than that, we just take the excess and we do a 2.0.
That's the solution, but why not? Why can I do a $50 million? Why wouldn't I want to do a $50 million deal on 1.0?
You'd be subject to some of the installment laws under 453. Those are other rules that we'd have more strict regulations.
And basically what it means is you get interest charged, right? Anything above 5 million per person per year in an installment sale type of structure, 453, is subject to interest charge. And so it's not as economical. So that's why we use a 2.0, which is separate than 453. Jake, same, we'll go back to you again. This thing, legally, right? Has the DST 1.0 and 2.0 both been through audits with the IRS?
Yes, dozens of times.
Pierce, what is the track record with the DST 1.0 versus 2.0? Are they both batting 1,000 or is any of them failed?
No, none of them failed. They're both batting 1,000.
Jake, gosh, if you're going to help me, eliminate 40% death tax, it seems like this thing could be 40% more. Is the cost different from 1.0 versus 2.0?
It's the same.
That's pretty good. Pierce, if I'm doing an earnout, right? My business is being bought, and then I've got to earn out some of that capital along the way. May I roll in installments from that sale as I'm earning out on the DST 1.0 and 2.0?
Yes.
Perfect. Micah says, it sounds too good to be true, Jake. Why haven't I heard of this, Jake?
It's oftentimes the largest transaction anybody ever has, and is not the typical thing that accountants and attorneys and other people do every day. You have to speak to a specialist.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, Jake, any rapid fire questions for Pierce or I?
Absolutely. Brett, can I do this if I have a racehorse?
Yes, it works for any highly appreciated asset. And there's people that buy horses at 100,000 and they sell them for 3 million after they win the Kentucky Derby.
What if I'm dirt rich and cash poor? Can I do this?
Yeah, it's even better to do that because now you have a chance to take an illiquid asset that could be real estate rich, and you can turn it into a cash flow producing asset, diversified, and get some more cash flow.
What if I've already incurred the transaction? What if I already sold my business like 6 months ago?
So if you've already received the capital, constructive receipt, or there's no contingencies remaining, the answer is, it's too late. If there's an installment sale where you carry paper, there may be a way to structure that rest of that installment sale to go into a new trust, but that's kind of a slight margin there.
So sub question, and then if under the installment, it was to buy a certain number of shares every year, and I've already sold 30% last year, I have 70% left, and I have an installment for a certain number of shares every single year, can I then inject the deferred sales trust in that installment?
Likely yes, but it all depends.
Common attorney answer. I love it. All right. Can I use this for gold?
Gold?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a gold mine there, Jake. You bought for 100K and it's worth 100 million. Let's go. It's deferred sales trusted.
Yeah. I have a client who has a large amount of inventory, and he just wants to get rid of his inventory. Can this work?
Oh, it depends. Depends on if you have debt over basis, depends on the business sale, depends on the characteristic of that inventory and how you've taken that tax. That one is a little bit more complicated. So we'd want to take a no cost MRI of the deal, of the inventory, and to see if we could possibly help.
I own a business and I just want to cash out on part of it. Like I want $5 million. My business is worth it, and I have somebody willing to give me $5 million. Can that work?
Absolutely. You can do it partial, half, 25%. Yeah, you can. You don't have to do all of it into the DST. You can just do a partial amount.
Okay. Can this work with foreign assets?
So our deferred sales trust is based upon U.S. capital gains tax. It does work for foreign investors who are subject to investments that are subject to U.S. capital gains tax. And by the way, a little bonus there: if you are if you're not a U.S. citizen, your exemption is only $68,000. So remember, the exemptions are 24 million married, 12 million single. Well, if you're not a U.S. citizen, it's like it's like zero. I mean, it's basically zero. You're $100 million, 68,000 exempt. You're basically getting hit with $40 million estate tax.
Yeah, so that unified tax credit, also known as the exemption for married filing joint, 24 million, that's going to decrease in a couple of years, right? Yeah. For foreigners, it almost doesn't exist.
68,000. So if you're worth $100 million, doesn't exist, you want to get with us right away.
Awesome. Well, I mean, Brett, if people want to reach us, how do they do that?
Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share this with someone that could help change their life or change their business value proposition for their clients. capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Jake, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
So similar to your website, I have one that's called strategictaxsolutions.com. strategictaxsolutions.com. Also 1-800-773-1848. You can book an appointment. You can meet with me. You can meet with Pierce.
Pierce, if they want to find you, where they find you?
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Living in Newport Beach, California. And you can also go to my website, kingdomluxuryrealty.com.
Amazing. Hey, everybody. So appreciate everyone out there. Please invite someone next week. Have a great rest of your week. And we will talk to everyone soon. Bye now.
Hi, everyone.
Yep.